All right, guys, we're back, and this one is going to be a fun one. This weekend, I rewatched the movie War Dogs, and if you haven't seen that movie, it's basically a few guys, they're young guys, and they work on government contracting, specifically like arms dealings, like guns and ammunition and whatnot. And the story is so interesting that I watched a long-form podcast. The guy Matthew Cox, who committed like mortgage fraud and whatnot, he had one of the actual War Dog guys, not the head honcho, kind of the second guy, not Jonah Hill in the movie, but the other guy. And they had this really long podcast breaking down his whole story, yada, yada, yada. Now, the reason I'm bringing this up and what gave me the idea for this video is at one point he talked about how big of a business government contracting is. And it's like $7.6 trillion. They're the biggest employer in the world. They buy basically everything. And it kind of struck a chord. I'm like, why does that sound so familiar? And basically real estate is the same type of concept, and that's why when I talk to people, especially people my age, who they're wondering what to get into, you want to choose something where there's a lot of margin, where there's a lot of fat, there's a lot of opportunity. And to go back to the movie, some of these contracts were in the hundreds of millions with huge spreads, because the person that they're helping, their boss, is the government. And they have endless money to get the things that they want done. Real estate is the same way, and this is kind of the framework of what I'm talking about. I essentially work for the government and the banks. That's who I'm producing for. That is who I'm providing a service for. And I've talked about this in previous videos. When you're a little kid and you want money, maybe your only way to get it is an allowance. So in your mind, your parent has money. Your only source is your parent. Now, when you got into the real world, you kind of forget these kid-like, almost simplistic ways of viewing the world. Who has money? Where can I get money from? Government has money, and banks have money. It's much easier to provide a service for them than it is for trying to get it through, no pun intended, warfare in business from peer to peer, like selling direct to consumer like I used to do. Because those people don't have endless money. There's not as much margin in their budget than there is when you start working with these bigger entities, the government and the bank. Now, I'm going to expand on this, especially because of this kind of entrepreneur space where everyone is so connected, and the new kind of thing is, people, it's not new, everyone's always wanted this, but people want freedom. People, want to be, quote unquote, their own boss, right? And I'm kind of trying to shift the mindset of what I had, of what that means when I first dropped out, let's say, compared to how I view it now. It's not this idea of you're a solo kind of going off on your own and escaping the system and blah, blah, blah. And you're kind of like a renegade. The better way to view it is you want to look at the world and not even just the world as a whole, but maybe just your own ecosystem, your own life. Who is the biggest, the baddest, the most powerful, the most protected, the most well-funded? And you want to basically, you don't break away. You want to get in where you fit in and ride the wave that's already, ride the current, as I would call it. Let the current carry you. And in my case, it's real estate. And I don't know the other industries well enough, so I'm just going to speak on real estate. The system is already in play. The banks already understand this product. They're willing to lend you millions, tens of millions, hundreds of millions of dollars, and you just have to provide interest for them. You have to be able to pay them back, right? The government, they don't want their population homeless. I mean, maybe it seems like that in California and some of the other states, but realistically, the government doesn't want homelessness and no place for their people to live. So when you think of freedom, or when you think of entrepreneurship, being your own boss, it's really not this concept of turning your back on the system. It's actually looking at what's already working, what's already in place, and helping what's already happening. The boat's already rowing. Just grab your rower and keep it going, and you will get paid endlessly. And this movie, I'm so glad I watched the podcast of the movie, because it kind of readjusted my brain, where I was like, the amount of opportunity when you choose the right boss, when you provide the right service to the right person, it's beautiful. Anyways, that's this week's video. I hope you guys get the concept and understand it, and it kind of sticks with you and maybe changes the course of what you were working on or what you wanted to do. I will see you next Thursday.